Hi friends, I'm Parviz and welcome to my another video on building Python GUI applications with PyQt6. But before that, please subscribe to my channel, like the video and also share the video. Now let's talk about the PyQt. Now PyQt6 is a powerful and user-friendly GUI toolkit for Python, with its easy to learn syntax and wide range of features. PyQt6 is the perfect choice for developers looking to create functional user interfaces, and in this video we will explore what makes PyQt6 the ultimate GUI toolkit for Python developers and why it's a must-have tool for your next project. Now let's talk about the key features. Now the first one is cross-platform compatibility. Now one of the biggest advantages of PyQt6 is its cross-platform compatibility. Whether you are developing for Windows, Mac or Linux, PyQt6 make it easy to create beautiful and functional user interfaces that look and feel great on any platform. With PyQt6, you can be sure that your user interfaces will look and work the same across all platforms, making it easier for you to reach your target audience. Now, another one is wide range of widgets and features. Now, PyQt6 offers a wide range of widgets and features that make it easy to create beautiful and functional user interfaces. From buttons and text boxes to calendars and image displays, PyQt6 has everything you need to create the perfect user interface for your project. With its intuitive and easy to use syntax, you can be sure that you are using the right tool for the job. Another one is large community and support. Now, PyQt6 has a large and active community of developers who contribute to the toolkit and its libraries, with a wealth of resources, tutorials, and support available online. It's easy to find help when you need it, whether you are just starting out with GUI development or an experienced developer. The PyQt6 community has you covered. Now, another one is advanced features and capabilities. Now, PyQt6 is packed with advanced features and capabilities that make it easy to create professional, great user interfaces. From its support for high DPI displays and device-independent pixel scaling to its advanced styling and animation features, PyQt6 has everything you need to create beautiful and functional user interfaces. Another one is easy integration with other tools. PyQt6 integrates easily with other tools and technologies, making it a great choice for developers who want to build complex and sophisticated applications. Whether you are using other libraries and frameworks or working with database and APIs, PyQt6 makes it easy to add advanced functionality to your user interfaces. Now let's talk that what are other options for building GUI applications in Python. Even in this course we will talk about PyQt6, but there are some other GUI libraries that you can use in Python. So the first one is Tkinter. Now Tkinter is a built-in GUI toolkit for Python, and it provides a simple and easy to use interface for developing GUI applications. Tkinter is a good choice for beginners or for simple applications that don't require advanced features. Another one is WXPython. Now, WXPython is a mature and powerful GUI toolkit for Python, providing a rich set of widgets and tools for building complex applications. WXPython has a large community of users and is well documented, making it a great choice for more advanced applications. We have PyGTK. PyGTK is a GUI toolkit for Python that provides a large set of widgets and tools for building desktop applications. PyGTK is used by many popular open source applications, and it has a large community of users and developers. And another one, we have Kiwi. Kiwi is an open source Python library for developing mobile and desktop applications. Kiwi provides a modern and flexible interface for GUI development, and it supports both touchscreen and mouse-based inputs. Now, these are just a few of the many libraries available for GUI development in Python. Now, the best library for you will depend on your specific needs and requirements, so it's a good idea to try out a few different libraries to see which one works best for you. But in my opinion, PyQt will be the best choice for you. Now, let's talk that how we can install that. Now, for working, we're using PyCharm ID, so you can just download the PyCharm ID from jetbrains.com and you need to create a new project. So I already have created my project, so you can just click on new project, and in here you need to just give your project name. After that, you need to also, I'm using a virtual env. I can just choose this. I'm using Python 3.9, and you can just click on create. Your project will be created with a virtual environment. Now let's install PyQt6. Now if you see the pypy.org, you can just use pip install PyQt6. You can just copy this, and after that you can just paste that in here, and you can just hit enter, and it will be installed. Because I already have installed PyQt6, so I don't need to install that again. So you can just easily install like this. Now this is the latest version of PyQt. Before this, we had PyQt5. You're not using PyQt5. There are some changes, even though there are not much changes in the code and syntax, but there will be some changes that you'll need to pay attention for that. So now let's get started our practical examples using PyQt, and also subscribe to my channel, like the video, and also share the video. In the previous lesson, we have learned that how we can install PyQt6. Now, in this lesson, I want to show you that how you can build your first window using PyQt6. So now this is my project. Let me just create another directory in here. Let me just call it tutorials. And in here, I want to just create a Python file. So we can just right click, new, and Python. So I'm going to just call it window.py, okay? So this is our window.py. Now, the first thing is that we need to import PyQt6, okay? So we need to, so first let me just import, and I can just say from PyQt6 dot qt widgets, we are going to import Q application and also Q widget, okay? So now let me just talk about this imports. Now, in PyQt, everything is module. So for example, we have modules. This Qt widget is a module, and modules are divided into different classes. So for example, in here we have Qt widgets. It's a module. Now the Qt widgets module contains classes that provides a set of UI elements to create classic desktop style user interfaces. There are about 138 classes that are related to Qt widgets module, okay? So from the Qt widgets module, we are going to import Q application class and also Q widget class, okay? So now what is Q application? Now in here we have imported the Q application. Now the Q application class manages the GUI applications control flow and main settings. Q application specializes Q GUI application with some functionality needed for Q widget based applications. For any GUI applications using Qt, there are precisely one application object, no matter whether the application has 0, 1, 2 or more windows at any given time, okay? And also this is the Q widget. So right now we are not going to talk about more about this, but this Q widget class is related to Qt widgets module, and it's used for creating of our window, okay? Now there are three types of window classes that you can use. We have Q widget, we have Q main window, and also we have Q dialog. So we'll talk about this in the later part of the course, but for right now we are going to just from the Qt widgets module, we want to import Q application and also Q widget, okay? So now after importing of our classes, now up in here what I want to do, I'm going to create the object of Q application, and in here, so for example, if you're using command line utility or command prompt utility, you can give in here sys.argv, okay, like this. If you're not using that, you can just leave it an empty list, okay? So first let me just give it like this. For example, if you're using a command line utility, you can just use it like this, okay? But if you're not using, you can just leave it as a blank list and there's no problem, it will work, okay? So now we have our Q application, and as I have already talked that this class manages the GUI applications control flow. And for any GUI application using PyQt or Qt, there is precisely one Q application object, no matter whether the application has 0, 1, 2 or more windows at any given time. So after doing this, now we need to create our this Q widget, and in here I can just say window Q widget, okay? And after doing this, so we need to show this window, and there's a method that's called .show. Okay, so we can just say window.show, and after showing of this, right now if I run this, so first let me just run this, and you will see. Okay, you can see that we have our window in here, and we have the window, but it's closing. Okay, now after this, what we need to do, we need to just so in here, let me first write the code in here, and after that I will talk about it. Okay, so in here I can just say sys.exit and app.execute. Okay, now in here, this is the place that we enter the main loop of the application. Okay, now the event handling starts from this point, from this section. Okay, the main loop receives events from the Windows system and dispatches them to the application. The main loop ends if we call the exit method and the main widget is destroyed. So now if I run this, let me just run this, and now you can see that we have our first GUI window, and that's built in PyQt6, and you can see that we can just maximize this, and we can just like this, and we can minimize it, or we can just close the window. We already have learned that how we can create our first graphical user interface window using PyQt6. Now in this lesson we want to talk about the window class types. Okay, so now the first type is QMainWindow. Now the QMainWindow class provides a main application window. A main window provides a framework for building an application's user interface. PyQt has QMainWindow and its related classes for main window management. QMainWindow has its own layout to which you can add QToolbars, QDocWidget, QMenuBar, and also QStatusBar. Now another type is QDialog. Now the QDialog class is the base class of dialog window, and the dialog window is a top-level window mostly used for short-term tasks and brief communications with the user. QDialogs may be modal or modelless. Now another type is the QWidget. We already have saw an example of the QWidget. Now the QWidget class is the base class of all the user interface objects. The widget is the important point of the user interface. It receives mouse, keyboard, and other events from the Windows system and paints a representation of itself on the screen. So let's create our practical example. So this is my PyCharm ID. Now let's create our example. So I'm going to just create another Python file. Let me just call it second window, for example. And after that, now in here, first I need to import from PyQt6.qt-widgets module. We are going to import QApplication, and also this time we want to import QMainWindow, okay, instead of QWidget. Now we can just create our QApplication. So for example, you can just give sys.argument v, or you can just leave it like this, okay, an empty list. So after doing that, now we need to just say window QMainWindow, and now we can show that. So I can just say window.show, and after doing that, now we can just enter to the main loop sys.exit app.execute. Okay, so right now if I run this, you will see that now I have so you can see that I have a window in here, and this is a QMainWindow. Okay, now the best thing is that as I've already mentioned, that when you're using QMainWindow, you can add menu bar, toolbar, or a status bar like this. Okay, so for example, in here I can just say for example, I want to add a status bar window dot status bar, and I can just say dot show message, and I can just say welcome course. Okay, and if I run this, so now you can see that we have a status bar in here. Now for example, if I copy this and if I add this in this QWidget based application, so in here, and if I run this, you will see that in here we have an error, and if I run this, you can see it's not working. QWidget object has no attribute status bar, and that's because when you're using a status bar or menu bar, you need to use a QMainWindow. So let me remove this. And now in here also you can add a menu bar. So for example, window dot menu bar dot add menu. So I can just say file, and now if I run it, and you can see we have a file menu. Okay, and if I copy the same and paste it in here, you can see that we have an error. If I run this, it's telling that our QWidget object has no attribute menu bar because it's not working in here. Okay, so let me remove this. Now let's work on the Q dialog, and let me just create another Python file, third window, and in here I can just first I need to just import Qt widgets. We are going to import Q application and also Q dialog. Okay, and also we need to just import sys. We need to create our application, Q application in here, and sys.argv, and also we need to just create our Q dialog window. And now I can just say window.show and sys.exit app.execute. Okay, so now if I run this, so this is another type of window. You can see that it's a dialog window, and we don't have the maximize and minimize in here. We have just close one, and we can just close the window. It's because it's a dialog window. In the previous lesson, we have talked about different window type classes. Now, in this lesson, I want to show you that how you can, for example, give a title to the window, how you can add an icon, how you can change the color of the window, and also how you can use object-oriented concept for creating of the window. So now what I need to just create another Python file in here. Let me just call it fourth window. And now we need to just import our classes. So .qt widgets. From the Qt widgets module, we're going to import Q application and also Q widget. Okay. And after that, also I'm going to import sys. Now we can just create class window. Now this is our class window. Now this class extends from the QWidget class. If you're familiar with the object-oriented concept, so when we're extending or inheriting from a class, then we can access all attributes of that class. For example, we are using QWidget class in here. Now this window class can access to all attribute and methods of this QWidget class. So now in here I can just say diff init and also super. First, let me just write the code, and after that I'll describe this, even though it's not related to the PyQt itself, but it's just object-oriented concept. Okay, so now in here you can see that we have our init and also super functions. Now this init underscore init, it is a reserved method in Python classes. It's called as a constructor in object-oriented programming. This method is called when an object is created from a class and it allows the class to initialize the attributes of that class. Also, we have super. Now the super function is used to give access to methods and properties of a parent class, and the super function make class inheritance more manageable. Okay. So now how we can access, for example, if you want to change the window title, how we can access this? We can use self. Okay, so now what's self? The self is used to represent the instance of the class. By using the self keyword, we can access the attributes and methods of that class. Okay, so first let me just create my application in here. So I can just say app Q application sys.argv, and after that we can just create our window. So this time we are going to use our custom class, and that's window. And now we can just say window.show and also sys.exit app.execute. Okay, so now if I run this, we have our window. But right now you can see that the title is Python. We need to change the title. So as I've already said that now we can use self. By using the self keyword, we can access the attributes and methods of the class in Python. So for example, in here we can just say self.set window title, and I can just say course. And now if I run this, you can see the title is changed. Okay. Also, you can add an icon. So for adding the icon in here, I'm going to just create another directory. Let me just say icons. And inside that, I want to just paste my qt.png icon. So now in here, I can just say cell.set window icon. And in here, we need to use QIcon, and that is related to another module. So this time we want to use Qt GUI module. From the Qt GUI module, we are going to import QIcon. And then here we can just say QIcon, and we need to just give the name of the icon. So that's icons qt.png. And now if I run this, you can see that we have an icon in here. Also, you can change the geometry of the window. So for example, in here, I can just say cell.set window geometry. So cell.set geometry. Okay. Now in the geometry, you can give the X and Y position, the width and height of the window. For example, I can just give it 50, 50, and also 300 by 200. And now if I run this, so you can see that that's changed. Let me just make it this to 150, 150, and 400, or even I can make it 500 by 400. So now we have our window. Okay, even let's just make it to 200 and also 200. Okay, so also you can change the color of the window. So we can just say cell.set window, or we can directly say set style sheet, and I can just say background color, for example, red color. So now the background has changed to red color. Also, you can set the opacity. So for the window, cell.set window opacity, for example, 0.7. And if I run this, you can see now we have some opacity for the window. In this lesson, we want to talk about the Qt Designer. Now, the Qt Designer is the Qt tool for designing and building graphical user interfaces, or GUIs, with Qt widgets. You can compose and customize your windows or dialogues, and what you see is what you get manner, and test them using different styles and also resolutions. Now let's create our practical example. Now by default we don't have a Qt Designer, and there will be no designer when we install our PyQt6. Okay. So we need to install another library that's called PyQt6 tools. Okay, even though for right now this is not updated because we are using PyQt6.3. If you see in the libs, you can see that we are using 6.3.1. This is our PyQt version, but for this it's 6.1. Okay, there's no problem. We can just install this. It will work. There will be some warnings, but it's working right now. We don't have any update for that. Okay, so we need to just install this. Let's click let's hit enter, and let's just wait for the installation. So now you can see that it has downloaded the Qt6 tools, but also it has uninstalled this PyQt6.3.1, and that's because, as I've already said, that it's compatible with 6.1, and we are using PyQt6 6.3. It's the latest version. So what we want to do, we want to just upgrade our PyQt6 again. So install PyQt6 upgrade. So upgrade, and let's just do that. So now uninstalled 6.1, and okay, now successfully installed 6.3. Even though you can see that we have a warning, it's telling that it requires the our designer requires this version of PyQt, but there is no problem, it will work. So now we have again back the 6.3. You can see that we have that. And if I open this, so you can see now we have the version 6.3, and there is no problem and it will work. Okay, so now let's just open our designer, and that's located in here and in the bin, I think. Yeah, so in the bin you can see we have designer.exe. Okay, now when you're installing that, because as I've already said that it's compatible with Qt 6.1, and there for right now we don't have any update for PyQt6 tools, and now the latest version of PyQt is 6.3, and when you install that it will uninstall the 6.3. okay, and it will install the 6.1, but you can just upgrade that. It will uninstall the 6.1 and it will install the 6.3. You will have this warning, there's no problem, and it will work. So now I can just open this designer.exe, and let me just open in the Explorer, and now in here you can see we have designer.exe. Let me just open this, and now we have our designer.exe, and from here, for example, you can just create a widget, and this is our window so this is the widget bar. You can just create that. If you can just preview this. So for example, we can just preview this, and now we have our designer. Okay, and that is working. So in the previous lesson we have learned that how we can install Qt Designer. So this is our Qt Designer. For example, from here, yeah, this is our for example, if I close this, and from here, for example, you can just create main window or widget-based application. We can just click on open, and not open. We can just click on create, so that's created. Okay, and from here, for example, you can change the geometry, the width and height of the window. And for example, this is the width, this is the height, this is the size policy, or this is the size increment. And you can change the window title, for example, first window. And also we have this, and like this, and so for example, you can add widgets from here, push button. Right now we haven't learned about this, and if I, for example, preview this, we have our window. Okay, now how we can use this, or how we can convert this to .py file. Right now this is a .ui file. So for example, if I save this, let me just save this, and I want to just save this in the tutorials. For example, I can just say window, and if you see in here, it's a designer UI or user interface file. Let me just save it, and now if you see, we have window.ui. okay, so how we can convert this to a .py file, and how we can use from this .ui file. Now there are different ways that you can convert this. You can convert that. First, let me just show you the first way. So for converting, we can use PyUIC6 modules. In here, I can just say PyUIC6 module, and after that, you need to give the you need to just give -x, and after that, you need to give the .ui file name. So that is window.ui and -o output. And for example, we can just name it window_ui.py. Hit enter. Okay, so now if you see in here, we should, yeah, you can see we have window_ui.py, and you can see that we have all the codes. Okay, and you can see that this is generated by 6.3.1. Even though we're using Qt Designer from 6.1, but there is no problem, it's working. You can just update your PyQt. Okay, and you can see that this is our class UI form that's extending from the Q object, and if I run this, you'll see that we have the code in here. This is the first way, but it's not a good idea. This is our design, and we don't need to, for example, use these codes in here. Okay, because we want to separate our main design from our coding logic. Okay, so even though it's working, you can just run this, and for example, you can add your old code in this file, but it's not a good idea and it's not recommended. By this reason, for example, if you're converting through the way that I have showed you, so through this way, now if you're using this way, it will create, for example, all the applications, and also it will create the for example Q application and all of these stuffs. Okay, and you can just remove this. For example, if I remove this, I can just remove this, and if I run this, you'll see that I'm not seeing anything in here. Okay, so this is the first way. Now another way is that, for example, if you don't want to create this, you want to just create this UI, the UI form. So let me just remove this. Also, you can use it like this. For example, in here we can just say PyQt6, and after that you need to just give the name of the UI file. So that's window.ui, and after that we can use it like this, and now I can just say window_ui.py. Okay, so now if I check this, so we have window UI.py, but right now you can see that we don't have the Q application and the loop in here, and if I run this, it will not run because it's not working. So now we want to just load this. Okay, we want to load this in another file that we can use that up. So we want to separate our main coding from the logic. So I can just create another file in here, and I can just say main window_ui.py. okay, and first we need to just import from PyQt6.qt widgets. We are going to import Q application, and also we are using Q widget, and also we need to just say from PyQt6. Okay, so we don't need the Q file. And also, if you see in here, so this is UI form, and now we can just say from window UI, we are going to import UI form. Okay, and after that, now we can just say class window, and this class extends from the Q widget. Okay, and let's just create our init in here like this, and also super def init and super dot init. Okay, and now we can just easily say self.ui, and we need to create our UI form, and after doing that, now we can just tap that. Okay, so we can just say self.ui, and we can just say set up UI, self.ui dot set up UI, and we can pass self as a parent. Okay, and after doing this, now we can just create our application in here. So you can just say app q application, and sys.argument v. It's optional, you can use it or you can just leave it an empty list. And also we need to just create our window in here, so window, and after that we can just say window.show. And now let's just create our loop, sys.exit app.execute. Okay, so now we can just easily run this code, and now we have our window. Okay, and for example, if you want to change the title to another one, so you can just easily say self.ui.set or we can just say self.window title, for example window title, and you can change that. Okay, so new one, for example, new one. And if I run this, so we have an error, too many arguments. It should be self.set window title. Okay, and now if I run this, so it's changed to new one. Okay, so like this you can just design your application in Qt Designer, and after that you can just easily load this. Okay, in the previous lesson we have learned that how you can convert your .ui file to .py file. Now there is also another way that you can just use from this window.ui, that's directly loading this window.ui file. So now let me just show you. For loading you can just use UIC module. So I'm going to create another Python file, and let me just call it load ui.py. And in here we need to just say from PyQt6.qt widgets, we are going to import Q application and also Q widget. After that I'm going to just import sys, and also from PyQt6 I want to import UIC module. Okay, And after doing that, we want to just create our class window, or we can just say, for example, class UI. It extends from the Q widget, and after that we can just create our init and also super function. And now in here we can just say uic.load UI, okay? And in here you need to give your UI file name, so that is window.ui. So I can just say window.ui, and also we need to just pass self as a parent, okay? And now in here we need to just create our Q application. So I can just say app Q application. We can just say sys.argument b. We can just create our window in here, our UI object, and after that we can just say window.show, and at the end we can just say app.execute. And now if I run this, okay, so now you can see that we have our window in here, and that is working. Okay, so in here we have directly also you can do it like this, so sys.exit app.execute, or like this. And if I run this, and we have directly loaded our .ui file. In this lesson, we want to learn about the Q push button. Now, the Q push button widget provides a comment button. The push button or comment button is perhaps the most commonly used widgets in any graphical user interfaces. So let's create our practical example. Now this is my PyCharm ID. Let me first change this to change the directory name, because I will upload the source code also for you. So for example, this was first that we have created our window, and this is our tutorial to first. Why it's not changing? Rename, and I can just say first refactor. Okay, it's not changing, but so this is our first one. I will change that, and I can just create another directory. Let me just say second, and in here I want to create another Python file, and let me just say btn example. Okay, now this up in here we will create our button. Okay, so now in here what I need to just copy my window code, because let me just and I can just create another Python, because I will always need that for the widgets. So that is for example our fourth window. I can just copy this and paste it in here. I can just remove this. So let me just copy this and paste it in the btn example. Okay, so and I can change the this window title to Q push button. Q push button. Okay, so now right now if I run this, you will see that I have just a simple window. Now how we can create our push button? So now push buttons related to Qt widgets module. We can just import that Q push button, and in here I can just say btn, and I can say Q push button. So now first you need to just give the text of the push button, and also we need to give the parent. So it's optional, but for right now, because we are not using any layout management, by this reason we need to just give this up in here, because for example, if I don't give this self up in here, and if I run this, you will see that I'm not seeing any push button in here. But if I give self in here, and if I run this, and let's run it, so we have a click button in here. Okay, you can set the geometry for the button in here. For example, we can just say btn dot set geometry, for example 100, 100, and also 130. So this is the x and y position, and also the width and height of the push button. Okay, and if I run this, so now we have the push button. The x and y position is changed, and also the width and height of the push button is changed. Also, you can change the font size of the push button. So for example, we can just say btn dot set font, and I can just use qfont. Now qfont is related to Qt GUI module, and we need to just import that at the top. We need to give the type of the font, for example, times, the size of the font, for example, 14. And if I run this, so let's wait. Okay, so now the text has changed. Now, also you can add an icon for the button. So let me just copy this icons folder because I have just one icon, and I can just paste it in here. Let me paste it, and now in this section we can just say btn.set icon, and in here we can use QIcon, and let's just say icons, and that is qt.png. okay, and if I run this, so now we have the icon with the push button. Also you can change the size of the icon, so we can just say btn.set icon size, and we can just use Q size. Now we need to import Q size, and Q size is okay, it's related to Qt core. So from PyQt6.Qt core we are going to import Q size, and in here I can just say Q size, and we need to give the width and height, so 36 and also 36. So if I run this, you can see now that's changed. Also, you can add a pop-up menu to the push button. So for that, first we need to just import QMenu. So in here I can just say QMenu, and now we need to create that. Let me just say pop-up menu, and I can just say menu QMenu. After that, we can just add action. So I can just say menu.add action. For example, copy menu.add action. We can just use copy cat and also menu.add action, and we can just say paste. Okay, and after that we need to just set that to the btn. So btn.set menu, and we can set the menu. So now if I run this, and now we have the pop-up menu. Also you can change the font size of the menu. We need to give the type of the font and also the size of the font. Also we can change the style sheet. Dot set style sheet, and I can just say background color, for example, yellow. So now if I run this, and if I check, you can see that this is working. In this lesson, we want to learn about the QLabel. So the QLabel widget provides a text or image display. QLabel is used for displaying text or images or GIF images, and the user interaction functionality is provided. Let's create our practical example. So I have just created my basic window code, and this is a class window that extends from the Q widget. We have our title, geometry, and window icon. Okay. So now we need to just import the QLabel that's related to Qt widgets module. So this is a class that is related to the Qt widgets module. So first we want to create a text with the label. So in here I can just say label, QLabel, and after that you can give it a text of the label. So for example, I can just say, for example, welcome to, and also we need to pass self in here. Okay, and now if I run this, you can see that we have the text or the label in here. Also you can, for example, if you want to set text, you can just use set text, and you can just give the text in here. So the text in here, and it will work. Okay, so now if I run this, you'll see that now it overrided this text. And also you can, for example, move the label up, and here I can just say label.move. We need to give the X and Y position 100 by 100, and if I run this, now you can see the text is moved. You can change the font size, label dot set font, and I can just say Q font. We need to just import Q font. We need to give the type of the font, for example, times, and the size of the font, for example, 15. Okay. Also you can set change the style sheet. So set a style sheet, and I can just say color, green or red. You can just give, for example, red. So now if I run this, so that is working. Also, as I've already said, that you can use the label for adding an image. Now let's add an image. So for this, I'm going to just comment this. And then here I can just say adding image to the label. Okay. And first I want to create a label in here, QLabel, and I can just pass self as a parent, and I don't want to give any text because I want to just load the image. So we need to use QPXMap. So for that we need to just import QPXMap in here, and in this section I can just say PXMap, QPXMap, and inside the PXMap we need to just specify our image. So that's in the icons folder, and I can just say qt.png. And after that I can just say label.setPXMap, and I want to set that to the PXMap. So if I run this, and you can see that we have the image in here. Also, you can add GIF images. Now first let me just copy a GIF image. So I have copied a GIF image, and let me just paste it in here. So after that we can just comment this. And let me just say add GIF image to the label. Now we can create our label, QLabel. After that we can pass self in here. And now we need to create a movie. So we need to just import QMovie in here, QMovie. And in the section I can just say movie, QMovie, and we need to specify the GIF image, that is img.gif, and after that we can just say label.setMovie, and we want to set the movie, and at the end we can just say movie.start. So now if I run this, you can see that we have a GIF image. Also you can set the speed up in here, movie.setSpeed. So it's in millisecond, for example, percent speed, it's percent speed, and let me just run it. So you can see now we have the speed for this. In this lesson, we want to talk about the QLineEdit widget. So the QLineEdit widget is a one-line text editor. A line edit allows the user to enter and edit a single line of plain text with a useful collection of editing functions, including undo and redo, cut and paste, and also drag and drop functionalities. So let's create our practical example. So I've just created my boilerplate code for creating of the window. It's just basic QWidget window. Now in here, the first thing is that we need to just import the QLabel class that's related to QtWidgets module. And now we can just easily say line edit, and I can just say QLineEdit. So I have imported QLabel, not QLabel, but QLineEdit. So I can just say QLineEdit, and I need to pass self as a parent in here. So right now, if I run this, you'll see that now I have a line edit, and I can write that something in the line edit. You can set the font for the line edit. Dot set font and Q font. We need to just import the Q font that's related to Qt GUI module. And I can just give the font, for example, the font type and the font size. Okay. And also you can set the default text. So you can just say line edit dot set default set text. Okay, so you can just say set text, and I can just say default text. So now if I run this, you can see that we have default text, and we can write in here, and the font size is changed. You can also, for example, set placeholder text. So lineed dot set placeholder text. For example, I can just say please enter your username. So now if I run this, so you can see that we have a placeholder text. Also right now you can, this is enabled, you can disable this. You can just say lineid dot set enabled. Now by default that's true, we want to just make it default, so it means that we want to disable that. And now this line edit is disabled. So let me comment this. So right now you can see that we can write and the text is showing in here. Sometimes you need a password field. To add a password field, we need to change the echo mode of the line edit. So set echo mode, and I can just say qLineEdit dot echo mode dot password. So password. And if I run this, you can see now we have the password. In this lesson, we are going to start our layout management journey in PyQt6. We have already learned about some basic widgets like QLabel, QPushButton, and QLineEdit. When you're developing a GUI application, the layout management is one of the important concepts. Luckily, in PyQt, there are different layout systems that you can use. For example, we have QHbox layout, QVbox layout, and QGrid layout. In this lesson, we want to create an example of QHbox layout. So now what's QHbox layout? QHbox layout is related to Qt widgets module, and using QHbox layout, we can align our widgets horizontally. Now let's do this practically. So I already have created my boilerplate code for creating of the window. It's just a basic widget-based window. So now we need to just import QHbox layout. So QHbox layout, and also QPushButton, because we want to we want to add our push buttons in the HBox layout. First, I want to create some buttons in here. So I can just say btn1 QPushButton, and I can just say click one. And so for right now, I'm going to just give Selvin here because I want to show you something in here. We have btn2, and I can just say click 2, and we have btn3, so btn3, and I can just say click 3, and also I have btn4, so btn4, and I can just say click 4. So right now, if I run this, you will see that I have the 4 buttons, but right now they are on top of each other, and we have just click 4. Now, for example, you can just move this. If you see btn1.move, so btn1.move, not move thread, but we want to just use move, for example, 100 by 100, and btn2.move, so move, for example, 200 by 200. And if I run this, so now you can see that we have the button, but it's not looking good. And you can see that if I make it smaller, the buttons and the widgets are hiding. Now it's not the best choice. Now the best choice is that you use a layout in here. Okay, so for example, we want to align these buttons horizontally, then we can use HBox layout. So first we need to just create our QHbox layout, and after that, now when you are adding your widgets in the HBox layout, you don't need to add self, because we will set this main HBox layout to the main window. Okay, so after creating of the HBox layout, now we need to add the widgets, and we can use add a widget. I can just say btn1 and hbox.addWidget, btn2, hbox.addWidget, btn3, and hbox.addWidget, and btn4. Okay, so right now if I run this, you will see that I am not seeing anything in here, and that's because we need to set this layout to main window. Now there is a method in the QWidget class that you can use that's called setLayout, and we can just say self.setLayout, and we want to set HBox layout to the main window. So if I run this, now we have our 4 buttons and they are aligned horizontally. I can just make it smaller. You can see the widgets are not hiding. I can just make it bigger, and it's working. We already have learned about the QHbox layout. Now let's talk about the QVbox layout. Using QVbox layout, we can align our widgets vertically. So let's create our practical example. So I have my basic window code, and this is a widget-based window. After that, we need to just import QVbox layout and also QPushButton, okay? Because we want to create some buttons in here. So I can just say btn1 QPushButton, and I can just say click 1. Q push button, and I can just say click 3, and btn4 Q push button, and I can just say click 4. Okay, so after doing that, now we need to just create our VBox layout. So I can just say VBox Q VBox layout, and now let's add these widgets to the VBox layout. So VBox.add widget, we want to add our btn1. VBox.add widget, we want to add our btn2. VBox.add widget, we want to add our btn3, and VBox.add widget, we want to add our btn4. And after that, we need to set that to the main window. Self.set layout, and we want to set the VBox layout to the main window layout. So if I run this, you can see that now we have our buttons, but they are aligned vertically. I can just make it smaller or bigger. The widgets are not hiding. We have learned about the QHbox layout and QVBox layout. Now let's talk about the QGrid layout. So using QGrid layout, we can align our widgets in a row and columns. So let's create our example. As usual, I have just created my basic window. Now inside this window, I want to implement the grid layout. We need to import QGrid layout. So QGrid layout and QPush button, because we want to add the push button in the grid layout. So first, let's create our QGrid layout in here. And after that, we want to create our buttons. So QPush button, and I can just say click 1, btn2, QPush button. So click 2, btn3, QPush button, and I can just say click 3, and btn4, QPush button, and I can just say click 4. Okay, so now we have our 4 buttons. We want to just create 4 buttons. After doing this, now let's just add this, or we can just create 8 buttons. I can just copy this and I can paste it in here. So this should be btn5 and also 8. You can change this to 5. 8. Okay, so now we can just say grid.add widget. So first we need to specify the row and column. Okay, now in here, first I need to just say first I need to add the widget. So for example, btn1, and so btn1, and after that we need to specify the row. So 0 row and also 0 column. Okay, and now I want to just add btn1 and the 0 row and 0 column. Let's just say add btn2, and I want to add btn2 in 0 row and first column, and also btn3, and it should be 0 row and second column, and we have btn4, it is 0 row and third column, and also we have btn5. Now for the btn5, first row and 0 column, btn, this is another btn, and it should be in the first row and second column, and the btn7, it should be in first row, and so it is btn5, okay, 0, this should be 1, and this should be 2, so the btn7 is in the second column, and the btn8 is in the first row and third column. Okay, and at the end we need to just set the main window layout. Okay, self.set layout to the grid layout, and now if I run this, you can see that now they are aligned in the row and columns. We have already learned how to create a GUI application in PyQt6 and how you can create some basic widgets using PyQt. But there's more that we need to do in order to make our applications usable. GUI applications usually provide a means to react to things that occur within an application. For example, when you click on a button, the action gets registered, and provided ample code has been written, it will be executed as a reaction to the clicking of the button. For every action that occurs, a number of outcomes may happen. Essentially, the questions we want to answer are as follows. What do we do when a particular action or event has occurred? How do we handle it? For example, when we click the button, what we want to do after clicking of the buttons. In PyQt, this action response schema is handled by signals and slots. Now, what is signal and slots? A signal is a message that's passed to communicate that the state of an object has changed. This signal may carry information about the change that has occurred. For instance, when a window has been resized, the signal will usually carry the coordinates of the new state or size of the window. Sometimes, a signal may carry no extra information, such as that of a button click. A slot is a specific method or function of an object that's called whenever a certain signal has been emitted. Most of the widgets in PyQt come with a number of signals and slots. However, it's possible to write your own signals and slots too. Now let's create a practical example. So I have just my basic window code, and it's just a boilerplate code for the window. So in here I want to just import QLabel, QVBox layout, and also QPushButton. Okay. So now first I'm going to create my VBox layout. I can just say VBox, QVBox layout. And after that, I want to create my button, so QPushButton, and I can just say, for example, change text, okay? And after doing that, now we want to create also a label, so we can just say self.label QLabel, and for right now, I can just say hello, okay, for the text. Now we can add these two in the widget, so vbox.addWidget, we want to add btn, and vbox.addWidget, we want to add the label, so self.label, okay? And after that, we can just say self.setLayout to the main VBox layout, okay? So now if I run this, you will see that I have a button and also a text. For example, if I click on this button, I want to change this text, okay? So for that, the first thing is that we need two things. We need a slot and also we need signal, okay? Now, as I've already said, that there are built-in signals that you can use. For example, for the button, we have clicked signal, okay? Now, by clicking off the button, what we want to do. So in here, I can just say diff change text. By clicking off the button, I want to change the text, okay? Now, I want to change the text of the label, okay? So I can just access the label using the self.label. So I can just say self.label.setText. So the set text is related to the QLabel. We can set the text. And I can just say welcome to course, okay? So now we have our this, it's called, we can call it method, or we can call it a slot, okay? Now, right now, if I click, if I run this, if I click on the button, nothing happens because we need to connect this with a signal. Now in push button, we have a signal that's called clicked signal. So now we can just say btn.clicked.connect, and we want to connect that with the self.changeText slot or method that we have created in here, okay? So now if I run this and if I click on this, you can see that's changed. And for example, you can do more. We want to change the font size, self.label.setFont, QFont. We need to just import QFont. And in here, I can just say, for example, times and 18, and also self, not select, but self.label dot set style sheet, and I can just say color, red color. So now if I run this and if I click on this, you can see that it's changed. In the previous lesson, we have learned about the event handling, okay? So now let's just create an example of event handling using Qt Designer. So we want to create our design in Qt Designer. We will learn about different widgets that we already have learned. We will implement that in the Qt Designer, for example, like label, QPushButton, QLine edit, and also layout management, okay? So using Qt Designer. Now it's a good idea to design your code using Qt Designer because it's easy, okay? So now the first thing is that we need to open our designer. So we can just go to the virtual env, and we already have installed it, and I have showed you that how you can install that. So we have Qt6 applications, and from here we have Qt, and in the bin folder we can just have designer.exe, and I can just show in Explorer. I want to show that, and I can just open that. Okay, so now the designer is opened, and I want to just create a widget based window. And after that, so we have our window in here. So this is our window, and so you can see that this is the object name for the window. This is the width and height. For example, I can just change the height to, for example, 200, like this. And also from here, now I can just so you can see that this is the place that you can add your widgets. It's a widget box. For example, we can add I can add a line edit from here, and you can see that these are the properties of the line edit. Now this is the object name. Make sure that if you want to change this, make sure that you remember this, because we will need this when we have written our logic. Okay, so also, for example, you can change the font size if you want the font size of this from here. For example, I can just make it to 12. Okay, so now we have this in here. After that, we want to just create a push button. So in here, now this is the object name, so that's push button, and I can just say click me. And after that, we are going to create a label in here. So let me just create a label in here. So right now, if I preview this, you can see that right now we don't have any layout management mechanism in here. And if I make it smaller, you can see that the widgets are hidden. Okay. Now we want to just so if you see in here, we have different widgets that you can directly add. For example, you can use vertical widget, and you can just add your widgets in here. You can use vertical layout, and you can just add your widgets in here. Okay, now this is the first way that you can just grab the widgets from here, and you can just add grab the layout from here, and you can just add the widgets. Now the second way is that you can just choose the widgets from here, and you can just right click, and after that in layout section you can choose, for example, we want to make it vertically. So now the layout is vertically, and for the main window I want to just make the layout vertically. So right now if I preview this, let me just go to the forum preview. Now it's looking good, but in here I want to just add let me just add spacer. So let me just grab that in here, and also I'm going to change the font size of this to I can just make it for example 12, and also this click me, we can change it to 12. Okay, so now if I preview this, you can see that it's looking much better. Okay, and also we can just remove this text from here, the text of the label. After that, I'm going to just save the UI form, so I can just click on save. Now let me just save this in the required location. So now in here in the second folder, I can just say I can just name it, for example, UI event .ui, and let's save it. And after that, we have that in here. So we have UI event. You can just open our terminal. Let's change directory to the second. And as I've already said, that there are different ways that you can convert this UI file to .py file. Now, for example, the first way is that you can just say PyQt6, after that -x, and we can just say UI underscore event.ui, and the output is, for example, I can just name it, for example, UI event .py. Okay, so now if I do this, you will see that now I have that file in here. Yeah, it should be, yeah, UI event. And in this way, as I've already mentioned, that you will receive the, for example, the executing code, and if I run this, it will be executed. And you can write your codes in here, your logic in here, and there's no problem. But it's a good idea to separate your, for example, design from the main logic. Now there's no problem, you can write this, but it's good to create a clean code. By this reason, I want to just leave it like this, and I don't need the execution code, so you can remove this. And also there's another way that you can just, if you don't want to create this this code, the executing code, there's another way that you can do that. So for example, I can just remove this UI event from here, and then here I can just say PyQt6, and after that I can just give the name of the UI event.ui, the UI file, and -o, and I can just say UI event.py file. Okay, so now this time it's converted, and if I see Now I don't have the executing code. Okay, so I have just the design code. Okay, now what we want to create another file in here, Python file for loading of that, and I can just name it, for example, load, and or we can just say, for example, window event. Okay, window event.py, and in here I can just copy my code from the previous lesson that we have set up. That I don't want to write it again and again, and so we have our import sys, and we have imported the Q application. Now in here, what we need to import from the UI event, we need to import this UI form. So from the UI event, we want to import UI form. Okay, and now so right now so we have our setup UI, and if I run this, you can see that now we have our design. Now, for example, in here, what I want, if I write something and if I click on click me, I want to change the label. So if you remember, we have a label in here, we want to change the text of that. Okay, so for that, in here in our window event, so now you can see that we have separated our design from the logic. Now you can write your own logic code in here. So I can just say diff on clicked, and in the on clicked, what I want first, I want to get the text from the line edit. Now if you remember, this is the object name for the line edit. Okay, so we can just say self .ui. Now this is the UI that we can access, and dot line edit. So this is the object name, and we can use dot text for getting of the for getting of text from the line edit. After getting of the text, we want to just set that to the label. So self.ui dot. So if you see in here, this is our label, and the object name is label, and I can just say dot label dot set text, and I want to set value to that. And now we can use the clicked signal of the push button. So I can just say self.ui.push button. So this is the object name for the push button. If you see on my design, so click me, this is the push button, and I can just say self.ui.push button dot clicked dot connect, and I can just say self dot on clicked. Okay, so now if I run this, and if I write something in here, and if I click on click me, you can see that's changed. And if I say and if I click on click me, you can see that is changed. Till now we have learned about some core concepts in PyQt6. Now let's talk about drawings. Now how we can do some drawings using PyQt6. Now to draw, we can use QPainter class. Now what's QPainter? So QPainter provides highly optimized functions to do most of the drawing GUI programs require. It can draw everything from simple lines to complex shapes like pies and charts. It can also draw a line text and text maps. Normally it draws in a natural coordinate system, but it can also do view and world transformation. QPainter can operate on any object that inherits the QPaint device class. Now the core functionality of QPainter is drawing, but the class also provides several functions that allows you to customize QPainter's settings and its rendering quality, and others that enable clipping. In addition, you can control how different shapes are merged together by specifying the painter's composition mode. So now let's create our practical example, and we will talk more that how we can use QPainter class. Particularly in this lesson, we will learn that how we can draw rect, how we can, for example, set pen for the rectangle, and how we can set brush for the rectangle. So for this section, I'm going to create another folder, and I can just name it drawing. Okay, so now or not drawing, I can just rename it to, because we have first, second, third, and I can just say fourth section, and this will be our drawing section. Okay, now in here, the first let me create a Python file, and let me just say draw rect, and or I can just say rect example, and I need to just copy the basic window code, and that is in here. I have win.py. Let me just copy that and paste that in here. So this will be just a basic simple window, and let me change the title to, for example, drawing a rectangle. Okay, so rectangle. Now if I run this, you can see that I have the title drawing rectangle, even though I don't have any icon, but there's no problem because I have not added the icons in here, but you can add the icon in this section. So now we have our widgets. So we have our basic window. Now what we need to import the QPainter class. As I've already said that for the painting, we need to use QPainter class. Now the QPainter class is related to Qt GUI module, and this is another module in PyQt6. So in here, I can just say from PyQt6.Qt GUI, we are going to import QPainter class, or we already have Qt GUI module, we don't need to that. Inside the Q icon, we want to just import QPainter. So QPainter, and also so right now I'm going to just import QPainter. Now we need to override the paint event. So inside the paint event method, we can just draw our shapes, anything we want. So now this is in here I can add self and also event as parameters. Now we need to create our painter, and I can just say QPainter, and I can pass self as a parent and the QPainter class, QPainter. After doing that, now we can use painter.draw. So you can see that there are different shapes that you can use. For example, we have draw path, draw pie, draw arc, draw line, draw rect, draw image, and anything you want, you can just draw that. So particularly, I already have mentioned that I'm drawing rect, so I can just use draw rect, and we need to give the x and y position, the width and height of the rectangle, so 100 by 15 and 300 by 100. So the x position, the y position, the width and height. So now if I run this, and you can see that I have rectangle. Okay, now yeah, now you didn't need to call this a paint event method because it is already built in the QPainter class, and that is used for drawing. By this reason, if I run this, you will see that I have my rectangle inside the window. So now also you can set pen, and also you can add brush for the, for example, for your shapes that you want to draw. Now, so we have imported the Q application, Q widget. Okay, so we have QPainter in here. After that, we want to import QPaint and also QBrush. Okay, so now we have draw rect, and in the section I can just say painter.setPen, and in the setPen we can use QPen, and inside the QPen first we need to give the color. So I can just say qt.globalColor. So we need to import Qt. That is related to Qt core module. From PyQt6.Qt core, we are going to import Qt. And I can just say Qt or q.globalColor. For example, I can just say red. After that, I need to specify the, for example, the pen size. I can give it 5. And after that, we can specify the pen style. Now, there are different styles that you can use. So let me just show you. So we can just say qt or qt.penstyle. So if you see, we have no pen, we have solid line, dash dot line. So for example, if I use dash dot line, and if I run this, you will see that we have dash dot line, and also the color is changed to red. And for example, if I just use dot line, and if I run this, you will see that I have just a dot rectangle. And also we can set the brush for the painter. So I can just say painter.setBrush, and I can just use QBrush. Now inside the QBrush, again, we need to give the global color, and I can just say qt.globalColor.green. So this is the color that will reflect the rectangle. And now we need to give the brush style. As pen style, we also have different brush styles. So I can just say qt.brush style dot. So you can see we have no brush, cross pattern, b-diag pattern, conical gradient pattern, and dense one pattern. So different types that you can use. For example, if I choose b-diag pattern, and if I run this, you can see that's changed, and we have the fill color of the rectangle is changed. For example, if I choose another one, for example, conical gradient pattern, and if I run this, you will see that we don't have anything in here, and it's I think it's so if I use dense one pattern, I should see something. Yeah, you can see that we have something in here, and that is changed. In the previous lesson, we have learned that how you can draw a rectangle in PyQt6. Now in this lesson, we want to learn how you can draw ellipse, okay? So I already have created my basic window, and I have my title, and I have my Q application, window object, okay. So now the first thing is that we need to import QPainter, and I can just say QPainter, the QPen, and also QBrush from the Qt GUI module. And after doing this, we can just use paint event in here. So I can just say paint event, I can pass self and also event now as a parameter, so event. And after doing this, we need to just create our QPainter, and I can pass self as a parent in here. And now we can just say painter dot draw ellipse, okay? So now in the draw ellipse, we need to give the positions of 100, 100, and also 400 by 200. So now if I run this, you can see that we have an ellipse in here. Now, the same as we have done with the rectangle, we have added pen, we have added brush style. You can do that with the ellipse, okay? So not just ellipse, with all shapes that you're drawing with QPainter, this will be implemented to all of them, okay? So for example, in here, I can just say painter dot set pen, and we can just say QPen, and first we need to give the color. So we need to import Qt or Qt from the Qt core module from PyQt6.qtcore. So .qt core, we are going to import Qt module, and in here I can just say Qt.global color dot, for example, black, or whatever you want, you can just use that color. And the pen sizes, for example, I can just give it 7, and also we can give qt.penstyle.dash.line. Okay, so let's run it, and you can see that we have that. Also, you can set, for example, the brush, so painter.set brush, and I can just say QBrush, and we need to just give the color, so qt.global color dot, for example, red color, and qt.brush style dot, for example, cross pattern. Okay, so this is another type of the brush style that you can use. So if I run this, you can see that our ellipse has changed. Now we already have learned that how you can draw rectangle and also ellipse. Let's draw text, okay? So now let me just first import, so I can just say from, okay, so we have Qt GUI up in here. I need to just import QPainter, and also I need QText document, okay? So now let's just use the paint event. So in here I can just say diff paint event, so paint event, self event, and after doing that we need to create our painter. So I can just say QPainter, and I can pass self as a parent, okay? Now we can easily say painter.draw text, and you can just give the, for example, the positions, the X and Y position of the text that you want to draw. For example, 100 and by 100, and after doing that, we can just give the text, okay? And for example, this text. And if I run this, you will see that I have the text in here. You can also create a rect, and you can add the text inside the rect. So for that, let me import the rect from PyQt6.qtcore. I'm going to import QRect. So now in here, I can just first create a rect, and I can just say QRect. We need to give the position of the rect, 100, 150, 250, and 25. After doing that, I can just say painter.drawRect, and I can just pass rect in here. And after that, I can just say painter.drawText, and I can pass rect in here. And now we can give the text. So for example, PyQt6 GUI development course. Okay. So now if I run this, you can see that I'm not seeing anything in here, and we have an error. So rect QRect, painter.drawRect, and painter.drawText. We can pass rect. Why I'm seeing the error, and so text. If I just run it through the terminal, and if I say Python text example.py, so now this is the error. So now when you're facing any problem in Python, you can just run that through the terminal. For example, if you're using PyQt6 or another, so you can just run it through the terminal and you will know that what is the error. So you can see that in here we have that it's telling that argument did not match any overloaded call. So draw text, we have self, we have qpointf, and we have string. So now in the draw text we have the problem. Yeah, I think we need to give the alignment flag. So qt dot, so I can just say qt dot alignment flag dot. So we need to just import that. By this reason we are not seeing the, okay, so qt, and now I can just say qt dot alignment flag dot, for example, align center. So now if I run it, okay, so now we can see that we have PyQt6 GUI development course, okay, inside the rectangle. Now also you can add, for example, if you want, you can add some HTML to your text, okay? So also you can do that. Now in here, in this section, I need to create a document, and I can just say qtext document, and after that I can just say rect2, and I can just say qrect. So I need to import qrectf in here. I can just say qrectf, and I can say qrectf. So we need to give the positions in here, so 0, 0, and 250 and 250. After that we can just also set the text width, so I can just say document dot set text width, for example rect2 dot width. I want to get the width of the rectangle. And after that we can just say document dot set HTML, and in the HTML I can just create my b tag, so a bold tag, and I can just end the b tag. So in here I can just say welcome to PyQt6 course, and after that I can just use an italic tag, so I can just say enjoy the course, so enjoy the course. And after doing this we can just give a new line, so I can just say n, and now also I want to set the font size, okay? So in here I can just create a font tag, so font, and I can just close the font tag. In here I can just say font size is 15, and after that we can give a color, so color is red. And now we need to give the text itself in here. So for example I can you can just whatever you want, you can just say, and I can just say please review the course, so review, or please give review for, please give review. So let's run it. Okay, also right now if I run this, nothing will happen because we need to just draw the contents. And in here I can just say document dot draw contents, and I can just pass painter and also rect2. Now if I run this, let me just run this, and you can see that now we have, this is the bold tag, after that we have the italic tag, and this is the font size with the red color. In this lesson we want to learn about the QGraphics view and QGraphics scene. So first of all, what is QGraphics view? Now the QGraphics view class provides a widget for displaying the contents of a QGraphics scene. QGraphics view visualizes the contents of a QGraphics scene in a scrollable viewport. To create a scene with geometrical items, QGraphics view is part of the QGraphics view framework. Now, what's QGraphics Scene? The QGraphics Scene class provides a surface for managing a large number of 2D graphical items. The class serves as a container for QGraphics items. It is used together with the QGraphics view for visualizing graphical items such as lines, rectangle, text, or even custom items on a 2D surface. QGraphics Scene is part of the graphics view framework. So now let's create our practical example. So now we have our just basic window, and I have created this boilerplate code for creating of the window. So first we need to import the QGraphics view. So QGraphics view, and also we need to import QGraphics, for example, scene. Okay. And after doing that, also we need to import QBrush. So QBrush and also QPen. Okay. So now in here, first I want to create a scene, and I can just say QGraphics scene. Okay. And I can pass self as a parent in the scene. After doing that, now let's create our green brush, and we want to create some brush in here, and I can just say QBrush, and we need to import Qt or Qt. So I can just from PyQt6.qt code import Qt or Qt. So in here I can just say Qt.global color dot, for example, green, and we have for example yellow brush, or I can just say red brush, QBrush, and Qt.global color dot red. Okay. And after creating all the brushes, now we need to create a pen. So I can just say red pen, or I can just say yellow pen because I have a yellow color. So I can just say yellow pen, and I can just say QPen, Qt.global color dot yellow, and we can just say yellow pen dot set width, and I can just make it to 7. Okay. And after doing that, as I've already said, that now we can create some items, and we can add that to the scene. And after that, we are going to add the scene to the QGraphics view. Okay. So now let me just say ellipse, and here I can create ellipse, and I can just say scene dot add ellipse, and I can just say 100, 100, 200, 200, so 100, 100, 200, 200, and I can just give the pen, so red pen, so yellow pen, not red pen, so yellow pen, and red brush. Okay. And this is ellipse, and now I can just say rect scene dot add rect, and so now this was ellipse. Now let's create a rectangle. So rect 100 minus 100, and also 200 and 200, and I can just say yellow pen and yellow and green brush. Okay, so green brush. So now we can create our QGraphics view. So I can just say QGraphics view, and I can just pass scene in here, and also self. And now we can also set the geometry for the scene. So set for the view, set geometry 0, 0, the x and y position 640 and 400. Okay. So now if I run this, you can see that we have the two items, and they are added in the scene. Okay. So you can see that it's inside a scroll level. Also, for example, you can, if you want, you can move these items, and there's a flag that you can set for the items. For example, for the ellipse, I can just say ellipse, so ellipse dot set flag, and I can just say QGraphics rect QGraphics item. We need to just import QGraphics item in here, and I can just say QGraphics item and QGraphics item. So QGraphics item dot graphics item flag dot graphics item flag, and I can just say dot item is movable. So this is a flag that we can set to the these items. So I can just copy this and paste it in here. So now we can just use rect, and the same we want to do for the rect. So now if I run this and if I move this, you can see that I can move this and I can move the rectangle and also ellipse, and it is working. So now we want to create a paint application. Now, particularly in this lesson, we will design our paint application, and in the next lessons, we will start our coding. So now this is my Qt designer, and I want to create a main window project in here. So this is my main window project, and in here, what I want to just create a file in here. So file, in the file, I can just say save and also clear. And after that, I want to create another one, and this should be for the brush size. And now in here I can give the brush size, so 3 pixel, we have 5 pixel, we have 3 pixel, 5 pixel, 7 pixel, and also 9 pixel. Okay, and also we can just create another one, so this should be brush color. And for the brush color, I can just say black, and I can say white and red, so green and also yellow. Okay, so now we have this. If I preview this, you can see that we have the file, brush size, and also brush color. After creating of the menu bar and also menu items, now we want to add some icons in here. So for that, let me just create a resource file in here. So or first let me create a resource file, because now and here the problem is this, that for example, if you're using PyQt6, you can convert your resource file to .py file using RCC module. Okay, and in PyQt6 that's removed, and we don't have that thing, and we cannot, for example, if we create a resource file, we cannot convert that, but we can just manually change the icons. But even so, first let me just create a resource file, and no problem, we will change that. And I can just say new resource, and I want to just save that in the fourth, not second, but fourth section, and I can just say resource and save it. And let's add, we can just say open resource, or you can just add prefix. So for example, I can just say icons, and inside the icons, let me just paste, copy the files, copy the images. So now in here I can just say add files, and I can paste that, in here. So let me just paste that, and let's just click on OK. So now we can just choose save, and this is save, and we can just from here, if you see, we have icons. So from here we can change that, choose resource icons, and we can just say save.png. After that we have clear, and we can just choose resource icons, and this is clear.png. We have the brush size, so for the brush size we have 3 pixel, the first one is, and we can just say 3 pixel, and after that we have 5 pixel, choose resource icons, 5 pixel and 7 pixel, choose resource icons, 7 pixel, and we have 9 pixels, so choose resource icons, 9 pixel. So now the brush size is done. We need to do some for the brush color, so we need to add the icons. So the first one is it is black. So black.png, we have white.png, so this is white.png, and we have red.png, so red.png, and green.png, so green.png, and the last one is yellow.png, so yellow.png, and this should be yellow.png. So now if I preview this, you can see that we have file, brush color. Also you can add, for example, if you want, you can add the shortcuts, and you can choose your menu item, and after that from here, also you can see that these are the object names. We don't want to change that. So for the shortcut in here, we can just press, for example, Control S. Okay, so now that's the shortcut. For example, for the clear up in here, I can just say Control C. Okay, and we can do for the brush size, if you want, for the brush color, you can do, for example, for the brush color, I can just add one. So where is it, the shortcut, and it should be okay. So this is shortcut, for example, Control B for the black. Now if I preview this, so form, okay, preview, and you can see we have the shortcuts and we can use it. Okay, so now we have our design. After that, what we need to just save this, and we can just save it paint UI, and I can just save that in the fourth section. So in the fourth section, so we have our resources. Now the icons are added in the resources, but we cannot access this. Okay, as I've already said that in PyQt6 you can use the RC module to convert this resource.qrc to the .py file, and after that you can import that, and it will work. But in here it's not working, so let me first convert the paint UI. So I can just say py uic6 and paint ui.ui-o, and I can just say paint underscore ui.py. So now that is converted paint ui.py. But if I create my paint window and if I run this, so paint window, and let's just we can copy some from the second check window. So the loading code, let me just copy this and paste it in here. Okay, so now instead of check UI we want to use paint UI, and also we need to import the UI main window. So now we have UI main window, and in here we need to just import Q main window, and we can just use Q main window, and let's use UI main window. Okay, so now if I run this, we have the design, but we are not seeing the icons, and that's because we don't have the resource file, and we cannot use from this resource file. And as I've already said that it is not working. So if I change this to, for example, icons save.png, and okay, so we need to run this. So we don't have that. Okay, now what we need to do, we need to just create an icons folder in here. Directory, let me just create icons, and after that I can just copy all the png. So png and clear, and let me bring this in here. So now it's copying the icons. Okay, so it's bringing the icons, close all tabs, and now the paint window, if I run this, so we have the save. Okay, now we need to just bring some changes to the code, to the paint UI, and what we need to do, so we can just remove this from here, and like this, and like this, remove it, and remove it, remove it, remove it. I think we are completed. So let's just run this, and we will check that we have all the icons. So we have safe clear for the 5 pixel we don't have. For the brush color we have, but just 5 pixel is missing. 5. We have the 5 pixel in here. We have added the icon in here for the 5 pixel, yeah. But why we are not seeing that? Okay, maybe the name is something that so we haven't copied the 5 pixel. Yeah, that's in here. So let me just bring that also in icons. Cut and paste. Okay, so let's run it again. And now you can see we have file, we have brush size, and also we have brush color. So in the next lesson, we will do our coding. In the previous lesson, we have created our main design for the paint application. So you can see we have file, brush, and also brush size, and also brush color. Now in this lesson, we want to start our coding, and particularly in the first step, what we want to just cover the whole window using a white color. And for that, we can use the paint event. So there will be a canvas, and we want to just cover this using a white color. Okay. So the first thing is that we want to create a Q image. So I already have imported the Q image and also the Qt code that we need. So you can just import the Q image from the Qt GUI, and also we need Qt. I also have imported that. Now in here, I want to first create my image. So I can just say self.image, and I can just say Q image. And after that, we need to give the size. So I want to get the whole window size, and I can just say self.size. And after doing that, I need to give the format. So I can just say Q image, and dot format RGB32. Okay. And after that, we need to just fill the image using a white color. So self.image.fill, and I can just say qt.globalcolor.white. So after doing this, we need to create some variables. So I can just say self.drawing, and by default, I can just make it to false. I can give the brush size, so self.brush size, and I want to just make it 2. And self.brush color, and I can just make it to qt.globalcolor.black. We need to just also give a last point, so self.last point, and I can just say Q point. Okay. So we need to just import Q point from the Qt core. So I can just copy this in here. I can just say Q point. Okay. Now after doing this, now let's create our paint event. And in here, I can just say diff paint event, and I need to pass self and also event. And now I can just create my canvas painter, and I can just say Q painter. So we need to just pass self in here. So self, and also we need to just import Q painter class from the Qt GUI. Okay, and now we can just say canvas painter dot draw image. We can just give the size as a self.rect, and also we need to give the image self.image, and also the size of the image self.image.rect. Okay, and now if I run this, you can see now we have a white color for the window. Now after doing this, what we want to write our code, we want to write that, for example, when we now there are different mouse events that you can use. For example, we have mouse press events, move events, release event. Now in here, what we want to do, we want, for example, when we press the event, what we want to do. Okay, so now we want to just say diff mouse, and I can just say mouse press event. Okay, and I can just say event. Okay, so by pressing of the mouse, first I want to check that if event dot button. So if event dot button, if that is left button, so I can just say mouse button dot left button. If that's the case, we want to just make the drawing, so self dot drawing, and we want to just make that to true. By default, that's false. Okay. And also we need to just make the self dot last point, and we want to make that to the mouse position. So we can just say event dot position. Okay. So now if I print self dot last point, so self dot last point. And if I run this, and if I show you, so in here, you can see that we have a mouse point in here, and it's showing the mouse point. Okay, now we don't need this mouse print in here. So now we have our mouse press event. After that, when we move the mouse, what we want to do. So we need to write that code. So I can just say diff mouse move event, and I can just say event. Now in that case, first we want to check that event dot buttons, and also we can check, we want to check different conditions, so mouse button dot left button, and also the self dot drawing. So these are the conditions that you want to check, so if they are true, so Now in this case, we want to create a painter in here, and I can just say QPainter, and I can just add self.image in here. Okay. After doing this, now we need to set pen for this, so I can just say painter.setPen. For example, we can use QPen in here. We need to just import QPen from the Qt GUI module. So I can just say QPen, and after doing that, we need to just say self.brush color, and also we need to give self.brush size. Okay. Also we can give for example we can give the qt.solid line. Okay, so dot it is I think penstyle.solid line. Yeah. Okay, so after doing this, now we want to draw the line, and I can just say painter.draw line, and I can just say self.last point, and also so I want to draw the line according to the last point and also the mouse position. And also I can just say self.last point, and I can just make that to the event.position, so position. And at the end we need to just update the UI, and I can just say self.update. So right now if I run this, let me just run this. So right now I cannot write, and it means that there is a problem. So if event.buttons and qt.mousebutton.left button and self.drawing, painter qpainter self.image painter.setPen. So let me, I think we need to give so first let me check brush color self.brush size qt.penstyle. It's pen style, or it is a brush style. So let me check it. So let's run it through the terminal. So Python paint window.py. So if I draw something, unsupported operand types for and mouse button and bool. Okay, so now we have if event.buttons and self.drawing. So now in here we don't need the self.drawing, and we can just remove that. We want to just check this, and now if I run this, and now you can see that I can just draw something in here. And now you can see that this is the default pen size that we already given to in here. And if I change this to, for example, to 7, and if I run it again, so now you can see it is 7. So let's just make it 2 back. Okay, so this was mouse press event. After mouse press event, now what we need to just work on mouse move event. We need to work on mouse release event. For example, if we release the mouse, and I can just say mouse release event, and I can just remove this, and I can just say event, and in here I can check if event dot button, if that is qt dot mouse button dot left button. In that case we can just make this self.drawing to false. Okay, so now it is working, and we can draw something in here, and we can just do it. So right now the this functionality is not working, the brush size, or we will work on that. But right now you can see that we can draw something in the screen, and that is working. In the previous lesson, we have worked on the drawing section, and you can see we can draw. Now let's work on these menu items. So first we want to work on save and also clear. So for that, the first thing is that in here, I want to just create my save method, and I can just say def save, and in here, I want to just import QFile dialog, So in here I can just say Q file dialog, and let's just say file path Q file dialog dot get save file name, and I can just pass self in here, and also I can just say save image, and you can just give, for example, the type of the image in here if you want. After doing that, now we can check if file path is empty. If that's empty, in that case we want to just return, but in the else case we can just say self.image.save and file path. Okay, so now let's connect this with the triggered signal, and so in here I can just say connecting signals, self.ui.action save.triggered. So this is a signal that you can use for the menu items. For example, for the push button we had clicked and trigger this for the menu item. So I can just say self.save. Now if I run it, so for example I can just draw something and I can just say save. So I can just save it in this location, and I can just say image and save. So in the fourth section, where is it? Where it is? That's not saved, I think. So file path qfile.get save file name. Let me also give the PNG types in here. So first I can just give it empty, and after that I can just say PNG and dot PNG, and also GPG. I can just say dot GPG and also dot GPEG, and after that we can just say all files, and in the all files I can just give the all files. Okay, so like this, and also let me check that if file path is empty we want to just return. In the else case we can just self.image.save the file path, and let's just draw something in here. File save, we want to just save it in the fourth section, and I can just say image and let's save it. Yeah, now that's saved. We need to give the type, and now you can see we have image.png, and if I open this you can see this is for image.png. So after that let's work on the clear. So I can just say div clear, and it's simple. So for the clear we can just say self.image.fill, and we want to fill that with the white color. So qt.globalcolor.white, and also we want to just update the UI, and let's connect that with the triggered signal. So I can just copy this and I can paste it in here. So that's action clear, so it is clear. Okay, and now if I run this, if I draw something in here and if I just say file clear, now that's cleared and that's working. Let's work on the brush sizes, and let's just come down, and in here I can just say div 3, for example 3 pixel, and I can just make the so by default if you see we have brush size to 2, and I can just make self.brush size to 3. Now let's just say div 5 pixel and self.brush size make it to 5. I can just copy this. We have 7 pixel and also 9 pixel. So let's just make it 7 pixel, and this should be 7. So we have 9 pixel, and we can just make it 9. So now let's connect this with the signals that we have in here. So let me just copy this. We have action 3. So action 3 pixel, and I can just say 3 pixel. We have action 5, so action 5, and I can just say 5 pixel. I have action 7 pixels, it should be 7 pixel. And we have action 9 pixel, so 9 pixel, and we can just make it 9 pixel. So now if I run it again, so right now it's 2 pixel, but if I say 3 pixel, that's 3 pixel, 5 pixel, 7 pixel, and we have 9 pixel, and that's working. Let's work on the brush colors. First I want to just work on the black, so I can just hit diff black color, and we can just say self dot if you remember, up in here we have the brush color, and by default that is black. And what we want to do, we want to just say self dot global color, self dot brush color, and we want to just make it to qt dot global color dot black. Okay, and now we can just copy this. So we have black color. After that we have white color, white. We have red color. I can just make it red. And after the red color we have green color. So green color, and I can just make it green. Also I have yellow color, so this should be yellow. Now let's just connect with the signals, triggered signals. I can just copy this, and I can say action, first one is black, and I can just say black color. After that we have white color, so action white, and this should be white color. We have action red color, and I can just make it to red color. Action green color, and I can just make it to green color. And the last one is action yellow. And now let's run it. So first we want to just say brush size, and if I change to red color, we have red color, we have green color, and we have yellow color. I can change this to red color. I can just clear that. I can write it again, draw it again, and it's working. And also I can save it. New image.png, save, and if you see, we should see the new image. Yeah, so this is the new image.